What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/, All Steelers Talk, or subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Today, the Steelers have already started their big moves before they finalize their 53-man roster and head into week one against the San Francisco 49ers. Kevin Dotson is off to LA. We will recap that trade, talk about more that we see coming and some surprise cuts that we expect to be made over the next 24 hours or so. We are approaching the 53-man deadline tomorrow, 4 p.m. on Tuesday. It's a beautiful day in the Berg. The Steelers were off yesterday for some team bonding. We'll talk about that here in a second, but how you feeling, my friend?
I feel good. This is game week for me. You know, we got Pitt starting this week. I know you got to wait an extra week, but I'm excited. The air always smells a little bit fresher on game week. Feels like this is real now. We're in the thick of it. This season's here. No stopping it.
No, I feel you. Week one, Pitt got somebody asked me this the other day, and I was like, "Oh man, dude, I'm terrible at my job." Wolford, is that week one?
Wofford, yeah.
Wofford, good old week one. Give me one guy on Wofford you know of, if you know any.
The head coach used to be the offensive coordinator at Pitt, Sean Watson.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, there you go.
A little revenge game going on there.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I just watched the Untold the Gator thing, and for literally the only game that they show is South Carolina versus Florida, because what's his name was like a quarterback at Florida, won a national championship, and then
Spurrier.
It's Spurrier, thank you. So it's like that, essentially the same thing.
Exactly. Same exact thing. Phil Dracovic is Tim Tebow, and that's how it's gonna work.
And there it is. And but that's exciting. Pitt, I mean, big week. You're right. Game week always feels the air's crisper. You know what I mean? The pumpkin spice lattes are rolling out.
Yeah.
You're wearing a sweatshirt a little bit longer in the day. It's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be here. The Steelers, they took yesterday off to do some team bonding. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe this is just a me thing. Was it a little weird to do some team bonding before you slice half of your roster in half and say, "Hey guys, hope you had fun go-karting, but you're getting cut tomorrow"?
Yeah, it's like when you take your dog to do like everything you love, like right before you take him to the farm upstate. Like that's
so bad.
Yeah, he gets to go to the park and play fetch. It's nice, I'm sure. I guess maybe it helps take some guys' minds off of potentially getting cut. But yeah, that seems a little, I don't know. Yeah, that seems a little cruel. I guess not cruel, I guess, but I just wonder how. I wonder what the split was between guys who were like, "Oh, I'd rather just actually play some football and try to, get as much good stuff on film as I possibly could," or, maybe I don't want to be. Maybe I want to be away from this facility and not think about any of it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm sure there are guys that are like, "Oh, I'm definitely getting cut. This is all," but guys that were on the edge of a roster spot who are sitting there just being like, "All right, I gotta have 2 more real good days," and then they announce that, and you're just like, "All right, man, whoa, could I work out after? Could you watch me or something?"
Yeah. It's like if your Saturday was awful, you're like, "No, I would actually like to practice. I would like to."
I felt like it was just a little strange. Team bonding when you have 90 guys. First off, whoever handled that bill, whatever it was,
yeah,
God bless, man. That's huge. That was a huge number. But two, just you're team bonding with half these guys that you're going to see in week 8 who are standing across from you on a sideline somewhere because they didn't make the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know. I just, as soon as I heard it, I was like, that's a little strange. The Steelers ended the night, capped it off with a huge trade, sending Kevin Dotson to the LA Rams in exchange for a 2024 4th-round pick and a 2025 5th-round pick. They also sent their 2024 5th-rounder and their 2025 6th-rounder to LA. Dotson gets a new home. Not sure what LA's depth chart looks like or whether or not he's going to have an opportunity to start, but I'm almost positive that at bare minimum, this is an upgrade from where he is in Pittsburgh, just because he'll have an opportunity to be possibly that first depth piece, that primary backup to somebody, while in Pittsburgh he wasn't really viewed as much as Nate Herbig, I guess, or possibly even Kendrick Green if they needed a center. Heads to LA. Your thoughts on the trade? I mean, less than 24 hours after it happened.
Yeah, this seems, and you were one of the first people I saw to say this. But this seems like a win for everyone involved. Like you said, at the bare, he couldn't have gone any. There are very few places he could have gone that would have given him less of an opportunity than Pittsburgh.
Hmm.
They were, like you said, he was getting kind of buried on the depth chart. I think the Steelers just kind of, had kind of seen what they needed to see from him. I think he still can play for someone. It just wasn't going to be in Pittsburgh. The Steelers get to move up a little bit in their draft. Get to move up a little bit in the draft. That you exchange a fourth and a fifth, or a fourth and a sixth for a fourth and a fifth, basically,
Yep.
right? Yeah, it's
Yep.
just some pick swaps. Getting anything of value, I felt like for Kevin Dotson was a win. But yeah, this seems like a good deal for everyone involved. The Steelers get to free up some space along the offensive line. I think this speaks a lot to like the fact that they really like Spencer Anderson because he's a
Yes.
roster lock now. And then also, the idea that Nate Herbig's injury isn't anything long term or anything to worry about. So they must feel pretty good about those two things as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is a positive sign for the Herbig injury, which that was my first thought was, okay, the Steelers must feel pretty good about where he is heading into week 1, which is good. I'm glad that you said Spencer Anderson. Felt like he was a name that was kind of overlooked in this. A lot of people immediately went to Kendrick Green and, is Kendrick Green's stock up now? I think yes, but I'm not. I mean, we're going to get to this, but I'm not totally sure that Kendrick Green's stock is secure yet. Spencer Anderson, I do believe, is a roster lock from here on out. I just think that there's so much versatility there. But another name that I'm going to drop on you, Dylan Cook. I think Dylan Cook might be a name to watch in this 53-man roster now. Had an impressive day against, who was the last game? Atlanta. Had a real impressive preseason finale against Atlanta. Has looked good in practice. Has moved above LaRaven Clark really in almost all team drills over the last 2 weeks or so. I think that he could be an option for the Steelers to keep as their fourth tackle if they believe Anderson could be an interior offensive lineman and then they keep him behind Herbig. I think that's definitely a possibility for them. And I think that if we're being honest, like, I don't feel bad about that. Like, I think that Spencer Anderson is exactly what you're looking for in that final, interior line piece, a swing guard who could also play center. And then Cook, having him on the roster removes your need for Spencer Anderson to like develop as a tackle. Like, okay, Spencer, you learn the inside. Cook, you just work as that fourth. Yeah, it would be the fourth outside tackle, with Broderick Jones being like that swing, that extra tackle. I think that could work out well. Kendrick Green, I think, is the other name, but I don't know. We're going to get to this in a second, but I'm not positive Kendrick Green's still on this roster.
Yeah, I mean, we might have talked about this. Oh no, I guess we didn't have we had a Friday podcast after the Atlanta.
Yeah.
But I think Kendrick Green had a good game against Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a matter of like, how much can a guy like that rise?
Yep.
How much weight can one game against a bunch of backups, quite honestly? How much weight can that carry for a guy like Kendrick Green? I didn't really feel like much. I feel like if he wasn't on the roster before the game started, then he wasn't going to be on the roster, after that game. I'm still with you. I don't think I still don't think he makes the roster. I don't think he, had a good enough camp. The totality of his work just wasn't good enough. Yeah, I think, but I agree with you. I think you feel fine with Spencer Anderson kind of narrowing his focus and going to the inside. And then Dylan Cook is an interesting one. That wasn't a name that had really popped up on my radar, but that would make sense now. It makes sense now that Kendrick Green kind of frees up, or not Kendrick Green, Kevin Dotson kind of clears up some space. But it seems like the Steelers going decidedly younger.
Yes.
It feels like along the offensive line, like they believe in the future a little bit more than those guys that they had before.
Yeah. And I think that the thing here is, with Spencer Anderson especially, is you can only stretch these guys so far. Yeah. And you talk to Spencer, and we've talked about this more than once. You don't want to ask a guy to do everything because then it's hard to do one thing really well. And to be able to now just have that option for him to just be that interior guy, I think takes a lot of pressure off of him. And maybe they go out and sign an offensive tackle. I don't know. But I think that being able to remove him from the outside and just say, hey, you play guard and center here, I think does a lot of good for the future of him. And just like you said, like it's, you could see that they're building that next level, that Nate Herbig, Broderick Jones, Dan Moore, Spencer Anderson, that rotation of guys that they could develop into wherever they end up, even if they're just backups long-term, into the next group of, hey, look, we have quality, we have depth. This is our offensive line moving forward. One trade is in the books. I kind of believe that there are at least two more coming before this final 53-man roster is finalized. I'm going to let you start here. Do you have any other trades that you see on the horizon for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
So there's no I don't think there's a trade. I was thinking about this, and I don't think that there are trades that I think are you are much more confident that there are more trades coming than
Yes.
I am. But I mean, I think the two big guys that I would look for to possibly be traded. First, obviously Kendrick Green.
Yes.
That's a guy who I think still could probably have some value, some trade value, and if you can get anything for him, I think you spring for that. But I would also look at Zach Gentry. I mean, this is a guy that
Oh,
we
that was
maybe
not on my
think,
two.
yeah. I mean, well, I think it's a guy that we maybe both think is going to be a roster casualty.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's going to get cut within the coming days. So, but he's still. It's more about where Darnell Washington is, and then the overall depth of that room versus, oh, Zach Gentry just isn't good enough. No,
Yeah.
he's like a good player. He's still very capable. Can obviously the special teams value, but I also think even just as a regular old tight end, blocking and catching, he's perfectly capable there of contributing to an NFL team. So I think the Steelers could dangle him a little bit and maybe get something back in that way. So I would watch that. I just don't know what kind of if you're just going to cut him, if teams
Yeah.
might be able to see that writing on the wall, there might not be a whole lot of value there. But if someone wants to lock him up, just make sure they can land him without having to contend with a bunch of other teams trying to sign him, then I think that could work for some team.
Yeah, I like the Zach Gentry. He was not on my two, actually. And I also like where it's tough because the Steelers are in a position where some teams might be able to see the writing on the wall. I think with Gentry, though, it almost helps because that writing on the wall isn't like it's not solidified,
Yeah,
like
it's not Sharpie. It's
yeah, exactly. It is a total guess right now. And even if you do feel okay, Gentry might be on the outside looking in, he might be that 53rd guy, but he might also be that 54th guy. Teams are going to say, hey, we're not willing to take that chance. And
mhm,
they'll make phone calls before tomorrow at 4 o'clock just to say, hey, look at how we feeling about Zach Gentry. Could we negotiate here? And when it comes to compensation, like, I mean, me and you talked about it the other day when we talked about Kevin Dotson and these initial trades. Like, we thought Kevin Dotson, you're getting a 6th-round pick, like
mhm,
max. You walk away with, even if you do give up a 5th and a 6th, you walked away with a 4th-round pick for Kevin Dotson. Like, that is impressive for a guy
yeah,
who is going to be your 3rd-string guard this season, who doesn't play center, is a one-position guy. I think for Gentry, you could maybe be looking at the same thing, maybe be looking at a 5th-round pick. I think anything is a better move than just to slice a guy like that who is like, there are some questions to Kendrick Green and some other names. Gentry's on an NFL roster this year. Like
yeah.
he's
Oh, yeah.
not a free agent heading into week 1. Like, as soon as he gets dropped, somebody else is going to pick him up. There are no worries there. I think that could be a good one. Kendrick Green is one of my two. I just think that he offers versatility. He could play a little bit of fullback. He's still young. He's entering his 3rd NFL season. I just think that there's enough value here that other teams will see to say, okay, well, we'll take a shot on him. We'll take a risk. We desperately need a guard. We desperately need a center. We need a piece that we could just whatever with. Let's take a shot on Kendrick Green. My other one is either Montravius Adams or Armon
Mm,
Watts on the
mm,
defensive line. I don't think you keep all 8. I don't think it makes sense to keep all 8 when especially if you're going to get rid of names like maybe a wide receiver or a safety or a corner. You need as much special teams depth as you could possibly find. A defensive lineman offers 0 special teams value, so you might as well, find a different spot for them. I think you could get something for one of those 8. I don't know if it's going to be Adams. I don't know if it would be Watts, but those two would probably be last on that list, I would imagine, of like who's making the team.
yeah,
Those two would be the last two. I think you could get something for both of them. And they're both, I mean, Watts is 27 and Adams just turned 28. So still have value, still young. I mean, if I had to predict the next trade, I would almost guess that it would be them and then maybe Green. Gentry, I didn't think of, but I think Gentry's in that mix now as well. But I think that a defensive line trade, like I was a little nervous that it was going to happen last night because as soon as Kevin Dotson happened, I was like, I was about to leave. Like I was like, okay, I'm going for a walk before bed. This is going to be nice. Was tying my shoes, looked at my phone and went, oh, Kevin Dotson's going to the Rams. Give me 10 minutes. And I was real nervous that it was going to come right after that. But I think that one's the next one that would be in rotation here.
Yeah, I could definitely see defensive line was a position I thought about. I think both Adams and Watts had good camps, but like you said, there's just too much going on at the defensive line position. I really like that one, actually. That's one where I could feel like you could think about maybe getting, like if you could get a fourth round pick. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you could get a pretty decent pick for for either of those guys. So I like that one. You're not gonna. Is there one you think is more likely? Watts versus Adams, because I feel like Adams is maybe the more.
I think Adams is the more likely trade, just because I think Watts was brought in here with starting experience, can play all three positions, whereas in Adams is more of like a nose tackle, maybe slide him to defensive tackle kind of guy. He's really only a pass rusher. And I think Adams is really good. Like I think Adams is a quality player, but I think when you look at just like the options that you have at that final spot, I think Watts offers more versatility and a little bit more experience that you could work with. But I wouldn't be surprised if teams called about both and the Steelers were just like, well, we're going to get better value for Watts. So let's get rid of Watts.
Yeah, they're not going to split hairs choosing between one of those guys. Like I don't know. You don't change your outlook on the season if, Armon Watts is gone versus Montravius Adams. But yeah. So if it's really whoever you can get the better value for, maybe that's it. Adams is the younger one though, right?
Adams is older by which is surprising because I thought Watts was going to be older, and I thought Watts was like 30 years old. And then I looked at his age the other day and I was like, oh, 27.
You look at him and you're like,
yeah,
oh, that's an aged veteran. That's a guy who's been around the block a little bit. But no.
That guy's the same age as me. Armon Watts is the same age as me. That just doesn't make any sense. I mean, that doesn't make sense with all these guys. I look at all of them constantly and just go, oh, he's got to be 45. No, he's 26. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. But I would think that, just like you said, they're not going to split hairs. It's just whoever's out there, whoever's available, whoever gets the best thing. But I do like just judging off of what we know about Omar Khan, I expect something else to happen. Like I just look at this and just say, like, this guy is too aggressive. He's way too good at what he does to just sit here and say, not, like he's, like I said, I was nervous. I was nervous that at 9:00 last night they were going to keep making trades because that's just what he does. Like he's just like, yeah, man, whatever. Like I don't sleep, I don't do anything. I just wheel and deal trades and make great moves. Yeah, and another win for Omar Khan. I got to say, this guy, he's undefeated so far. I would say Omar Khan in all GM moves so far.
Yeah, I mean, so he's had 3 trades. So he had Claypool trade.
Yeah, William Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah, which was a conditional 7th round pick or something in like 2025, which is He was literally just like, hey, you guys don't want him anymore? All right, well, and actually I'm almost positive that the Steelers, I'm not sure, but I'm almost certain that the Steelers got that pick back because he didn't actually play a game for them. So
so they didn't give up anything.
Yeah, they just got to try out William Jackson for free and said, hey, here you go. Chase Claypool, easy win, huge win. And now he's wheeling and dealing Kevin Dotson for a 4th round pick, a former 4th round pick replaced for a 4th round pick, and you get a 5th next year. I mean, that's a win.
Pretty good.
That's a win. That's a win. If you've ever thought, why the is my wireless bill so high, then let me tell you about Mint Mobile, who I'm partnering with for today's videos. You might already know Mint Mobile if you've seen those funny ads from Ryan Reynolds, who is also an owner. But let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell to you direct online. They cut out the middleman. No retail stores, no salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for the same network? Click the link in my description or scan this QR code if you're interested in the best value in wireless. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. I switched to Mint. I moved to the fancy part of town, and everybody made it a big deal when I got here. But what they didn't tell me is that the cell phone service disappears. With Mint, that didn't happen. And I can never tell you how thankful I am to get those text messages and those phone calls when I'm sitting in a dead zone. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their digital eSIM cards, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. If your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card for free. It only takes about 15 minutes to switch, and Mint has great customer service if you need help. I know 0 things about the internet and 0 things about my phone. So I called Mint, and I still got it done in 15 minutes. That's how good they are. Now, as a special limited time offer, you can get their unlimited plan, which is normally only $30 a month, for just $15 a month. That's a 50% savings off their already super low price. It only takes 15 minutes to pay as low as $15 a month for your phone plan. It really is that simple. Use our link, trymintmobile.com/Steelers Talk to get started. Or you could check out the link in our description or scan this QR code, whatever you prefer. It helps out our channel. And if you've already made the switch, let me know in the comments. All right, next thing I want to talk about here, the Steelers are a little bit over 24 hours away from their final roster cuts. Deadline is Tuesday at 4 p.m. We have a couple of names. We've talked about these names in the past, but I think some have been added, some changes have been made, some moves have already happened. I mean, the Steelers are 9 guys deep in their cuts right now. Madre Harper, Neville Clark, James. I'm not even going to try it. Keone Dang, Forrest Ryan, BT Potter, Rex. You know his last name. I can't pronounce it. Thank you. And wide receiver Dan Chisnia. All gone. And who was the other one? Aaron Cruikshank, who actually I thought he didn't have any catches, but if there were some accurate deep balls against Atlanta, he probably would have had at least 1 or 2 big plays. Thought he looked all right. Those were the 9 guys that got cut. No surprises there, right? Don't believe so?
No, don't think so.
The next round should be a little deeper. You have guys that you believe will be on the chopping block that you maybe don't believe everyone will see.
Yeah, and this is one I was actually talking with some people about at practice on Saturday, and that's James Pierre. James Pierre just has not had a good camp. I think he is somewhat of a known commodity that has maybe not gotten worse this summer, but
he's
it's
gotten
looked
worse. Yeah.
Well, he's looked worse this summer.
Yes.
And I just don't. I think even in a cornerback room that doesn't have a ton of depth to it, I don't know how you can justify keeping him over, an extra defensive lineman or an extra offensive lineman or even an extra receiver. He just hasn't been good enough. I think you can also sign another cornerback, another guy who might get cut, and you might be able to find a younger guy with a little bit more upside than what James Pierre has right now. But I just don't think the outside corner need is as pressing that you need to keep a guy like James Pierre, who just has not looked good really at any point, like during this training camp. Like I think you have very little confidence in him, and keeping him around just because you need a corner right now, I don't think is the move. I would rather just keep that spot open and maybe sign another corner if you feel like you need him, or maybe you believe a lot in Chandon Sullivan's ability to bump outside and fill that gap as the 4th outside corner, which is what he would be. So I think James Pierre was the first guy that I thought of.
Yeah, James Pierre is, I think, the easiest name on the list, just because it's just so difficult to say that the Steelers are or would accept that being their final cornerback spot. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. He's looked terrible. There hasn't been a moment where you've thought, oh, okay, James might have saved himself there, or, oh, that was a good move by James. It was just consistently James is getting beat. James is getting yelled at by coaches. Guys are trying to instruct him to get better, and he just isn't. It seemed like he digressed this offseason. Luke Barku is not going to replace him. I don't know how they go about signing him. The name Tez Tabor,
Oh yeah.
former
Former Gator.
Gator, thank you, was cut yesterday, 2 days ago, I believe. And he was a name that came to mind. Then I looked at his stats and realized that he hasn't really done much in the NFL, but he's a former second round pick that maybe the Steelers could take a shot at. I just think that when it comes to replacing James Pierre, it's just too easy. Like, it's too easy to find a guy who, at bare minimum, just meets that same level and has a little bit more upside or a little bit more athleticism or has better instincts or just something, some quality that you could say, oh, okay, well, this guy offers just a little bit more value than James Pierre. I think that's super easy. I don't believe that the Steelers have that guy on their roster. I think they have to go get him.
Yeah.
I think that could be, I don't think it's going to be a trade. I think it's going to be a signing, but I think that is their one major signing that they will make before the 53-man officially comes out. Zach Gentry is a name that we have tossed out there that I think remains a possibility. I will say that I went through my 53-man roster yesterday and I struggled to find a reason to get rid of him, just because I think that he was the 53rd and he was the 53rd name that I put out there, but I hit a point where I was just like, okay, like, there's 50 guys, there's 51 guys on this roster right now. They already have an outside corner signed. They already have all their inside linebackers. Like, I just couldn't find a place to be like, oh, okay, Zach Gentry is gone because of this guy. But I do think that the Steelers obviously think different and they have ideas for different guys and they're going to take chances in certain positions to kind of boost some stock or see what happens. I don't think Gentry is necessarily safe. I think he could still be on the outside looking in, but I think that's definitely one to watch that we continue to talk about. Another name, Miles Boykin, obviously, that we have talked about, continue to talk about. I'll drop one for you in the inside linebacker room. Tanner Muse,
Yeah,
I think could be on the outside looking in right now.
Yeah, I thought about that one too, which would be kind of disappointing because I think he's had a good camp.
Me too.
I've kind of been pretty impressed with him throughout training camp, even the preseason games too. But yeah, it's just like keeping four. It would be four, and he'd be the fourth inside linebacker, basically,
He'd be the
right?
fifth inside
Oh,
linebacker,
right.
and I think that they keep 5, but I think that for some reason they like Nick Kwiatkowski a little bit more.
Really? Why?
I don't know why. I don't know why, but they didn't get rid of him. There's just like signs, they didn't get rid of him during his injury, which there's a reason, you know what I mean? It's just they cut Cody White, man. They cut Cody White during an injury that we didn't even know. I'm not even positive he's actually injured. I just think that they just got rid of him.
His toe on the,
yeah. Like, if they're getting rid of that guy, they're getting rid of everybody. They didn't get rid of him during an injury where he missed, over a week of practice and a preseason game. Came back in the preseason finale, played over Tanner Muse with the second team. Don't know why. I don't know. Just picking up the breadcrumbs here, following the trail. It just feels as if for some reason they have a fascination with this guy. And maybe Danny Smith likes him. You know what I mean? Maybe it's like he's Danny Smith's guy and he sees that he's got that special teams value. But I don't know. I thought Tanner Muse looks good, and Tanner Muse is known as a special teams ace. So I thought he was a lock going in here, but I'm not totally sold on that right now.
That would be a surprising. Tanner Muse getting cut for Nick Kwiatkowski, that would really surprise me. If Tanner got cut for, they wanted to make room at some other position, that would make more sense for me. But keeping Kwiatkowski, I just, I'm not going to pretend to have watched a ton of all 22 film or anything, but I've not been super impressed with Nick Kwiatkowski to this point.
No.
That doesn't make a whole lot. I think Tanner Muse is the better cover guy too. I feel like that makes him like an important, like that is a big feather in his cap. Like you said, Muse has been a good special teamer. I'm just not sure what Kwiatkowski would bring that Tanner Muse doesn't.
I don't know.
And I think Tanner Muse is the potential to make more of an impact on defense should it come to that. I don't know. That's interesting. That would be definitely a surprise cut for me.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think it's like, if it was just like, oh, Tanner Muse isn't going to make team, people would be like, oh, okay. But like, I just think that they're going to make a last minute switch here. It's going to surprise some people. I just see the writing on the wall. I think there's a possibility they keep 6, as crazy as that sounds, just because they're gonna if that was the instance, a guy like Miles Boykin's gone, because they're just going to be like, okay, well, we'll just load up on special teams value here and get rid of.
We'll trade special teams value at receiver for special teams value at
inside linebacker.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, inside linebackers are probably your most, that is like you draft like Mark Robinson and Alex Highsmith and everybody who comes in as a rookie. Like the Steelers could draft you in the first round. They'll be like, yeah, your first year, man, you're going to play a lot of special teams if you're a linebacker. Like it's just, it is what it is. So I could see that. I could see that being a thing. The safeties are kind of the last bit here for me. I don't think Trey Norwood makes it. I just think the injury hurt him too much. And I don't think your boy Kenny Robinson sneaks his way onto this roster.
I think that ship has sailed a little bit.
Yeah.
So, they're okay. So 4 safeties, they're keeping
they're keeping Killebrew. In my 53, they keep Killebrew, but they keep Elijah Riley too, who would act as like the third. Like if they needed a safety, I guess a fourth. If they needed a safety in a do or die situation, they're not
calling on Riley over it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Dude, you're putting Patrick Peterson back there. You're, Joey Porter Jr. You're putting Deontay Johnson at safety before Miles Killebrew steps on the field on defense. That's just what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You'd pull the Bill Belichick put Gronk out or Darnell Washington out at safety before.
Signing Zach Gentry back to the roster to be here. Just, that's the other thing. And I think that's a good way to end it here. I was talking to my neighbor actually yesterday, and he was saying that he thinks that they keep Gentry just because he doesn't see a place where he leaves. And I said, yeah, I could see that. If they do, does he hold enough value to, like, does it make more sense to trade him at that point or, and possibly try to find a corner or something? Or is he the guy that's just inactive on Sundays because you don't need him on Sundays? Like, you just don't need that guy out there.
Well, if that's the case, then I would just trade him. Like, I would trade him for anything you can get. Like, if you're not going to use him at all, which I think that's part of the equation too. It's not that, there are, like, I get what you were saying. Like, there are roster spots for him, but like, if you're not using that roster spot on someone, if you're using that roster spot on a guy like Gentry, who's not going to contribute when you have the potential to add a corner who could, like, there is a much higher likelihood that your fourth corner will contribute in some way than I think your fourth tight end would.
Yes.
So that's why I would just, unless you have a very specific idea for what kind of role Zach Gentry can play for you this year in real NFL football games, real snaps, even if they're special teams, then trade him. Like, don't try to get something back for him. That would be my thought.
I agree. I just don't think it. Gentry's the one guy that it just doesn't make a lot of sense to keep around. And if you don't have a reason to cut him, you should trade him because it just doesn't make sense. It just, at the end of the day, doesn't make sense. All right. With that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk or subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. We are just about a day away from the Pittsburgh Steelers final 53-man roster being revealed. We will have every single update at allsteelers.com and on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Just like Steven said, it is game week for the Pitt Panthers. Wofford. Who cares? Coming this Saturday. Find all the action, all the updates at InsideThePanthers.com. Find both of us on Twitter. As always, enjoy a beautiful week in the Berg. Peace.